The skies above Research Station Z9 turned dark as a massive ship broke through the clouds. It wasn't just another cargo ship. It was something far more dangerous. Alarms echoed across the base. Security bots lined up, weapons aimed. Everyone had heard the warnings. Inside the hangar, soldiers surrounded a steel cage thicker than any prison door, sealed with glowing blue locks. Something inside growled. The sound made the walls vibrate. Even the soldiers stepped back. The alien girl, a researcher named Lara, stood watching from behind the safety glass. Her large violet eyes stared at the cage in fear. She whispered, "They brought that thing here?" Her supervisor nodded. "The council ordered it. They want to study it. Maybe find a way to control it." Lyra shook her head. "You don't control that. You don't study it. You survive it." The cage door opened just enough for the creature to step forward. It was taller than any living being on the base, its body covered in black scales, claws sharp enough to cut metal, and eyes like glowing fire. Everyone called it a monster. It had no name, only a file, Subject X-47. As the chains locked around its arms, it let out a low growl that made two guards drop their weapons. The monster didn't move. It just stared ahead. That's when he walked in, a human, quiet, average-looking, wearing a mechanic's uniform. He had no rank, no badge, just a tool belt and a calm expression. His name was Ray. He looked at the monster. It looked back at him. Everyone froze. Ray didn't. He walked closer, past the warning signs, past the shaking soldiers. "Stop!" Lyra shouted from behind the glass. "Don't go near it. It destroys everything." Ray didn't answer. He stood about 10 feet away from the cage and just sat down, cross-legged, like he was in a park. The monster tilted its head. Ray took out a protein bar from his pocket, unwrapped it, and took a bite. He looked at the creature and held out the rest. "You hungry?" he asked calmly. The room went silent. The monster didn't move. Then, slowly, it crouched. It lowered its massive body to the floor and sat just like Ray. One of the guards whispered, "What the hell?" Lyra's hands trembled. "It's watching him. Why isn't it attacking?" Number one could explain it. Ray came every day. He sat beside the cage, sometimes spoke softly, sometimes didn't say anything at all. The monster stopped growling. It stopped trying to break the walls. It only moved when Ray arrived, and only ate when Ray gave it food. The other scientists called it a trick, a coincidence. Lyra didn't think so. She started reviewing the footage, hours and hours of it. In every clip, the monster only showed calm behavior around Ray. With anyone else, it growled, it snarled, it paced like a caged beast. But with Ray, it just sat peacefully, eyes half closed. One night, Lyra stood in the corridor when Ray walked by. "You shouldn't be near it," she said quietly. Ray paused. "It hasn't hurt me." "Yet," Lyra replied. "I've seen what it's done on other planets. Burned forests, killed armies. Nothing stops it." Ray gave a small smile. "Maybe it's just tired. Or maybe—" He glanced toward the holding chamber. "It doesn't want to be a weapon anymore." Lyra looked at him like he was crazy. "It's not your friend. It doesn't feel things like us." Ray simply said, "Then why does it stop growling when I talk?" She didn't have an answer. That night, Lyra stayed late in the observation room. The monster was asleep, curled, like a dog, facing the door where Ray always entered from. Suddenly, an emergency signal flashed. Unmarked ships were entering the system. Pirates, mercenaries, hostile. Security rushed to prepare defenses. Scientists locked down labs. But Ray? He didn't run. He walked to the monster's chamber. and the monster stood up. For the first time, Lyra saw something in its eyes. Not fire. Not rage. Something else. Purpose. And it was looking straight. At Ray Asterisk, the research base was still under high alert. Outside, defense drones circled. Inside, the tension was thick. Security teams loaded their weapons. The unmarked enemy ships hadn't attacked yet, but everyone could feel it coming, except Ray. He sat inside the observation room beside the monster's chamber, calm, quiet, and focused. In front of him stood the creature known as Subject X-47. Still behind thick plasma bars? No chains anymore, just invisible energy walls between them. The monster didn't snarl. It didn't pace. It sat. Still, watching Ray. Lyra stood near the door, holding a data tablet. Her hands were shaking, but not because of fear. This time, it was confusion. No being, alien, machine, or enhanced bioform had ever gotten that monster to sit quietly. But this human, this unimportant technician, had done it without effort. She stepped forward slowly. "Why you?" she asked. "Why does it listen?" "To you?" Ray looked up at her, then back at the creature. "I don't know. Maybe because I don't expect it to be a monster." Lyra frowned. "But it is?" "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe it was made into one." She stared at him. "You think it remembers being something else?" Ray leaned back. "I think it remembers being alone. And maybe now it isn't." The monster made a low sound. A vibration deep, not threatening. Almost like a sigh. That's when the warning siren began to wail again. Enemy ships approaching. Estimated impact, 12 minutes. Panic spread like fire. The base commander's voice shouted through the intercom, "All personnel to shelters. Defense units prepare for breach." Lyra turned, ready to run, but Ray didn't move. "You need to leave," she shouted. He stood slowly, looked at the monster one last time, and said calmly, "You stay calm. I'll be back." As he turned to leave, something strange happened. The monster growled, not loud but sharp, a warning. It rose, stepped forward, and slammed its claw against the invisible wall. Alarms buzzed. Lights flashed red. The system registered agitation spike. Lyra jumped back. "Ray, what did you do?" Ray didn't flinch. He turned back around and did something no one had ever done. He walked toward the monster. Everyone, watching, held their breath. One more step, and he was inches from the barrier. The monster's claws scraped the floor. Its eyes locked onto his. Ray raised a single hand and said softly, "I'm not leaving you behind." The monster froze. A moment passed. Then silence. No alarms. No growls. Just breathing. Two beings staring through the invisible barrier. Understanding. Something no one else could. Elsewhere, the Council's attack fleet had sent down a warning pod. A hollow threat. Inside, the message was clear. Surrender Subject X-47, and the base will be spared. Refuse and face destruction. The base commander panicked. Scientists debated. Soldiers argued. No one knew what to do. Except Ray. He walked into the command center like he didn't belong there, but no one stopped him. Maybe because he was the only one not shouting. Maybe because he had something no one else had. The monster's trust. "I'll give them an answer," Ray said. The commander narrowed his eyes. "You? You're a tech worker." Ray shrugged. "And that thing listens to me. That gives me more power than you right now, doesn't it?" Silence. Everyone turned toward the shim. Screen as Ray approached the console. Back in the monster's chamber, Lyra stayed behind, watching the creature. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It simply stared at the door Ray had exited through. And then it lowered its head, not in defeat. In respect. Lyra's eyes widened. "No, this can't be training. This This is something else. Suddenly, data on her screen shifted. A biological scan of the creature's spiked emotional patterns, memory centers, even dormant brain regions, all lit up. It wasn't just reacting. It was feeling. The monster wasn't just following Ray. It was choosing him. Outside, the enemy fleet charged weapons. Inside, a message was sent back. A single sentence from Ray. Come take it if you dare. The message spread fast. The alien commanders laughed. They thought it was a joke. Just a human trying to be brave. But they didn't know what was waiting inside the base. Not weapons. Not tanks. Not armies. Just one man. And the galaxy's most feared monster. Standing beside him. Asterisk. The message Ray sent, come take it if you dare, reached the Council's war room in less than a minute. High above the base, inside a golden flagship orbiting the planet, the Council members watched the screen in silence. They weren't used threats, especially not from a low-level human technician. One of them, a tall, blue-skinned alien with glowing markings, leaned forward. Does he understand what he's dealing with? He hissed. That thing destroyed entire colonies. Another counselor spoke. This human... Ray. What rank is he? No rank, the intelligence officer replied. No military record. He was a ship mechanic, reassigned to research base Z9 last year. The room fell quiet. An unranked human had just defied the most feared galactic rulers. And worse, he had control over the monster they couldn't tame. The decision was fast. Terminate both, the lead counselor said. Destroy the base if necessary. We cannot let that creature fall into human hands. On the surface, Base Z9's emergency lights turned red. Everyone was ordered to evacuate. Escape shuttles were prepared. Sirens wailed through every corridor. But Ray stood in the hangar, unmoved. Lyra ran to him, holding a data pad. Her voice was shaking. The Council isn't bluffing. They've activated orbital weapons. You need to leave now. Ray looked up at the sky. Then why hasn't anything fired yet? They're probably charging their weapons. Ray gave a small smile. Or maybe they're scared of what I'll do. Lyra stared at him like he was insane. You're not a soldier. You're not even part of command. Why are you doing this? Ray looked toward the chamber where the monster stood still, waiting. Because no one ever gave it a choice, he said softly. And I'm not going to let them kill the first being that chose me back. Up in orbit, the Council grew restless. Their weapon systems were locked on the base, but something was wrong. The targeting AI was refusing to fire. Status? Barked. The commander. Unknown interference, a technician said. Our orbital systems are being jammed from the surface. The counselor's eyes widened. From the surface? That base has no military-grade jammers. Correct, the tech whispered. But the signal is coming from inside the beast's containment unit. Back at the base, Lyra watched her screen in shock. The creature subject. X-47 was emitting a frequency. Not random. Not chaotic. Controlled. Precise. She turned to Ray. It's jamming their weapons. It's protecting the base, Ray nodded. It's not just strong. It's smart. They built it for war, but they forgot something. What? He looked straight at her. They forgot to teach it fear. Lyra swallowed hard. Then a new alert popped up. Unauthorized breach in the outer wall. The Council had sent strike drones. 6 black ships broke through the cloud layer, heading straight for the base. Turrets opened fire. Energy shields flared. Explosions lit up the night. Inside the base, soldiers scrambled to hold the line. Ray didn't move. He walked calmly to the monster's chamber. The walls hissed as the barriers deactivated. The doors opened. Everyone watching through the cameras screamed. He's opening the cage. He'll be torn apart. He's crazy, but Lyra. Said nothing. She watched the screen. Heart-pounding. Ray stepped into the chamber. The monster turned toward him, eyes glowing red from alert mode. Body tense. Ray raised his hand. I know what's coming, he said, but I'm not afraid. The monster growled low. Not a threat, but a question. Ray stepped forward. Not unless you are. Outside, the first strike drone entered the main hangar. Its scanner locked onto Ray. Target acquired. Its arm shifted into a plasma cannon. Glowing with energy. Ray didn't run. But he wasn't alone. With a roar that shook the walls, the monster charged. In a flash of black scales and fury, it leapt across the hangar, its claws slicing the drone clean in half before the weapon could fire. The impact sent metal chunks flying into the walls. The camera feeds went static. When they returned, the drone was in pieces. The monster stood tall beside Ray, eyes burning, chest rising and falling with slow, deep breaths. Ray didn't even flinch. The base fell silent. Lyra exhaled. It's guarding him. Far above, the council watched. In horror, call them back, one whispered. Call the strike team back now. But they'll see it as weakness. Call them back. Too late. More drones entered. But this time, the monster didn't wait. It tore through them like paper. Not wildly, strategically. Fast, efficient. It didn't attack the base. It didn't attack the humans. It only destroyed those who aimed at Ray. Council's plan had failed. Their greatest weapon had chosen its master, and that master was human. Asterisk smoke filled the halls of base Z9. Walls shook. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. A floor vibrated as the last strike drone exploded outside the command center. But inside the monster's chamber, it was quiet. Ray sat on a steel crate, calmly bandaging a cut on his hand. The beast stood nearby, still and alert, its body covered in dust and scorch marks. Black scales shimmered under the dim red lights. Across the room, Lyra stared through the cracked glass. She had seen everything. The monster hadn't just fought. It had protected, blocking blasts, smashing machines, and always putting itself between Ray and the danger. Not once had it looked at another human with anger. It only had eyes for him, and that terrified her, not because it was dangerous, but because it wasn't, because she realized, it had never been. Lyra stepped into the room, slowly, carefully, no weapons, no fear. The monster turned to her, watching silently. Ray looked up. You're not running? She shook her head. I was wrong. He didn't speak. Lyra took another step forward. I thought you were being manipulated. I thought it was tricking you. Ray gave a quiet smile. I know. She looked at the monster. But it's not a monster anymore, is it? Ray tilted his head. Maybe it never was. The data Lyra had gathered proved its subject X-47 had advanced intelligence, emotional recognition, and something no AI or experiment had ever shown. Selective. Loyalty. It had chosen, and its choice was Ray. She opened her data tablet and scrolled through the brain scans. Its memory centers lit up the moment you spoke to it. Emotional spikes, recognition, even attachment. Ray raised an eyebrow. Are you saying it likes me? Lyra gave a weak laugh. I'm saying it trusts you, maybe even needs you. He glanced over at the creature, who now lay beside him calm, eyes half closed, like a sleeping dog. Ray whispered, Then I need it too. Outside, the Council's forces were in chaos. Drones destroyed, jammed signals, their orbiting warships unable to fire. A secret meeting was called. This is no longer a weapon, one counselor said. It's an ally of the humans. That makes it worse. A silence fell. Another voice spoke, colder than the rest. Then we must erase the human. Gasps followed. Kill the technician, and the bond will break. And if it doesn't? Someone whispered. Then we kill them both. Back on the surface, Lyra joined Ray and the beast in the chamber. She watched the two man and monster sit in perfect silence. Why you? She asked again. You're not a warrior. Not a leader. Ray thought for a moment, then shrugged. Maybe because I never looked at it with fear. Just curiosity. Lyra lowered her voice. The galaxy fears it. The council wants you both dead. Ray looked straight at her. Then let them come. The room shook this time. It wasn't a drone. It was a ship dropping troops just outside. The base hundreds fully armed elite Lyra single quotes as eyes widened. Ray. They're not here to capture. They're here to end this. The beast stood up. Its red eyes slowly turned toward the doors. Then toward Ray. It let out a deep growl low, calm. Ray placed a hand gently on its massive shoulder. I won't let them take you. The beast made a soft, sharp noise in response like a breath. It understood and it walked ahead of him, claws tapping on the metal floor like war drums. Outside, the council's soldiers stormed the base. Laser blasts lit up the corridors. But then they heard it, a roar louder than thunder, more primal than fear. Something moved through the smoke fast, angry, controlled one by one. Soldiers dropped their weapons, not from injury, but from shock, because the monster wasn't alone. Ray walked behind it unarmed, unarmored, fearless, and it fought for him like nothing they had ever seen. Not as a weapon, not as a tool, but like a guardian. Lyra watched from the command room screen. Her hands trembled not in fear, but awe. This is no longer about control, she whispered. This is about loyalty. She looked at the footage. The creature stood over Ray, shielding him from a barrage of blasts. Not moving, not flinching, just protecting and then it hit her. All this time, they had studied it, locked it up, chained it, tested it, trying to break it, trying to fear it. But what they never tried was to trust it. Ray had, and now it was fighting a war for him. Lyra looked at the console and whispered, they saw a monster. He saw a soul. The battlefield outside Base Z9 looked like the ruins of a fallen city. Smoke curled into the red-tinted sky. Fires burned in the wreckage of crashed drones and shattered steel. Alien soldiers lay unconscious or broken. And at the center of it all stood a monster. Its black-scaled body was torn and bleeding, but it didn't fall. Its chest rose with slow, deep breaths. Dust clung to its skin. Heat shimmered off its back. Beside it, Ray stood tall, no armor, no weapon, no shield. Just dirt. On his clothes and courage in his eyes. Everyone who saw them stopped fighting. Even the Council's elite squads backed away. They had never seen anything like it. This wasn't a beast controlled by pain or fear. This was a protector, and the bond it had with Ray shook something deep in them. Inside the control room, Lyra opened an old file from the Council's classified records. She had hacked into their backup systems an hour ago. What she found made her blood run cold. The monster wasn't just created in a lab. It was grown using ancient DNA, salvaged from a dead world. A forgotten race. But the shocking part wasn't where it came from. It was who it was meant to obey. Her voice trembled as she read aloud. Subject X-47 responds only to neural patterns matching precursor species O1. Designation: human. Lyra's hands shook. They didn't build this creature to serve any empire. They built it to follow us. She turned to the monitor. Out there, Ray placed a hand gently on the creature's shoulder again. It let him. It leaned into the touch like a loyal warhound. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It was never meant to destroy humans. It was made for them. High above, the council members argued again. He commands the beast. He's using it as a weapon. He must be eliminated now. But deep down, fear settled in there. Hearts, because if one human could bond with such a monster, how many more were out there? How many other beasts had once waited for orders from a species now rising again? What if humanity hadn't just returned to the galaxy? What if they were reclaiming what was once theirs? Back on the battlefield, Ray helped the monster sit down. It was hurt badly. Burns across its side, one leg barely moving. Ray knelt beside it, placing both hands on its claw. "You did enough," he said softly. "Rest." The beast let out a low rumble. Not pain, not anger, something else, something. Grateful, Lyra ran to them, breathing hard. "We have to evacuate. More warships are coming." Ray looked up. "Then we take it with us." Lyra hesitated. "It's too big." "The escape ships." "We find a way," Ray snapped, then softened. "It saved all of us. It fought when everyone else ran." Lyra nodded slowly. For the first time, she agreed. They reached the hangar. A transport ship waited, humming quietly. The pilot yelled, "You can't bring that thing. It won't fit." Ray didn't argue. The monster crawled forward, forcing itself onto the loading ramp. Its claws scraped the edge. Sparks flew. The ramp bent, but it kept going. It refused to leave. Ray, the pilot, stared in shock as the beast lay curled at the back of the ship, groaning from pain, but still alive. Ray sat beside it once more. The door sealed shut behind them. As the ship lifted into the sky, Lyra sat across from Ray. Her face was pale, her mind still spinning from the files she'd read. "I think it's more than just one experiment," she said. "I think there are others." Ray leaned his head back, eyes half closed. "Others like him?" Lyra nodded. "Creatures, weapons, machines, maybe even entire fleets, built for one reason: to obey humanity." But no one remembered. Ray looked down at the creature sleeping beside him. It twitched in its sleep, like a dog dreaming. He whispered, but he remembered. Above the planet, Council warships scanned. The surface. The base was gone. The beast was gone. The human was gone. And with them, a secret lost for thousands of years. The galaxy had treated humans like survivors, refugees, colonists. But now they knew. Humans were never just survivors. They were the original masters, and their monsters were waking up. Asterisk, the transport ship floated silently in deep space. Its lights were dim. Its engine made only a soft hum. Inside, Ray sat against the hull wall, eyes tired but alert. Across from him, Lyra looked through the main screen at the stars, cold and endless. And between them, resting like a sleeping mountain, was the beast. Subject X-47 no longer had chains. No more cages. Only scars. And peace. Lyra tapped her data screen. She had finished decoding the last fragments of the Council's classified archives. What she found changed everything. She spoke softly. They didn't just build it from old DNA. They didn't create the beast. Ray glanced at her. Then what is it? Lyra turned the screen toward him. It showed old glyphs, ancient diagrams, and a dark outline of something massive. Creature isn't an experiment. It's a remnant, a leftover. From Earth's first empire. Ray frowned. Earth's what? Lyra nodded slowly. The precursors weren't aliens. They were us. Humans before the collapse. Before we vanished from the stars. She pointed at the sleeping creature. This beast was one of their guardians. Built to protect only one species. Ray finished the sentence. Humans. Word spread faster than light. A rebel faction leaked. The battle footage, grainy video, showing a monster tearing through elite Council drones, but never harming a human. The galaxy watched in silence as Ray walked beside the beast, untouched and unafraid. Millions of species saw the same thing. A human giving a command with no words, and a monster obeying not out of control, ... of trust. The council tried to bury it. They failed. On a far-off colony, children played a game with wooden figures. One child held up a beast-shaped toy and whispered, "This one protects the human." Another child nodded, just like in the story. In a trade hub, alien merchants now sold small trinkets, black-scaled guardians, always shown beside a human figurine . And in the shadows of the council chambers, leaders whispered what they feared most. What if there are more? Back aboard the ship, the beast finally stirred . It opened one eye-red, soft, glowing faintly. Ray leaned forward and gently touched its head. "You're safe." The beast made a low sound. It wasn't a growl. It sounded peaceful, like a breath it hadn't taken in centuries. Lyra stepped closer. "You know what this means, right?" Ray gave a tired nod. "We just became a threat." She corrected him, her voice serious. "No, we became a symbol." The ship approached a small human colony, a quiet moon with green fields and simple homes. Ray looked out the viewport. "They won't be ready for this." "They'll have to be," Lyra replied, "because everything has changed now." When the ship landed, people came out to see what had arrived. Children stood behind fences. Soldiers gripped weapons. Then they saw Ray step out alone. And behind him, the creature. Big, silent, watching. The crowd froze. One little girl took a step forward. Her parents shouted. But she didn't stop. She walked up to the beast, slowly, nervously. Ray didn't move. The monster lowered its head, and the girl reached out her hand, then gently touched its nose. It didn't growl. It didn't move. It closed its eyes. The crowd gasped. And then they cheered. In a distant system. Council agents recorded the event. They sent the footage to High Command. The report was brief. The beast obeys the human. The people accept them. The symbol has spread. We may already be too late. Back on the colony, the sun set behind the hills. Ray sat on a wooden bench, staring up at the stars. The beast lay beside him, calm and watchful. Lyra joined him, arms crossed. She asked, "Do you think others will come? Other creatures like it?" Ray looked up at the stars and nodded. "They're out there, sleeping, waiting, built long ago to protect humanity." He looked at her with quiet certainty. "And now they're waking up, because we're finally back." Lyra whispered, "And the galaxy isn't ready." Ray smiled. "It never was."